What's going on? It's the Lack of Lepers. We're back. Let's pick up right where we left off. Dr. Gears, take it away.
True.
which
True.
is
That's the
its
hard part.
own kettle of fish.
Oh yeah. It's easy to have tons of experience. It's a
Camelfish?
lot harder to actually be good.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, you can just keep kind of plugging along and doing stuff, and that's fine. But it's, some people have talent. Some people have very specific talent. Some people can do, just about anything. Just kind of throw stuff together out of nothing.
Mm.
And like, I'm not. I kind of have to work. I have to sort of work with the muse. She comes and goes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really envious of people who'll be like, hey, I need a story, this vague outline, and I need it by next week. And it's like, sure thing, boss. And they just,
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I find myself more like Dr. Gears, and I mentioned that not to talk about myself, but to talk more about this sort of species of artist who operates in phases. There's something to be said for somebody who can meet a deadline because it's arbitrary. And I often think that environmental pressure makes art better. But yeah, I mean, for something like containment fiction, I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh, it's been, 3 weeks, since I wrote something and posted it. I got to do something. That might be the case for like other things, like the blog or something like that. But when it comes to like containment fiction, like actual writing, these days it's the AOE format for myself. I'm the sort of person, and it sounds like Dr. Gears is too, who will sort of filter feed and wait until an idea almost strikes you. It's this, once again, this very high threshold, this long time horizon sort of mentality where you're not really as eagerly gripping and reaching for every little idea that you might be able to turn into, let's say, an SCP. But you're sort of still, you sort of have this spiritual stillness, and you're just waiting almost for the butterfly to land on you, and then it's time to go.
just bash it out. It's like, uh-huh. Okay. I guess.
Gosh, yeah.
Like,
I totally have to be in the right
Quality above deadlines.
mood.
I would
That's the mantra for Config magazine. Anybody who's worked with me knows.
love to be able to do that. And like, I'm sure I probably could.
Yeah.
But it's like, just thinking about it, it's like, there's no way.
Well,
So-
I don't know.
I mean, like, when you force
It takes the spontaneity out of it. I think that's what this guy's about to say, so let's let him say it.
yourself to write, the product's obviously going to be worse.
Yeah,
Like, It's not
exactly.
like you're on a job here. There's no deadline to post articles. You're not going to be able to
Right.
put food on the table.
See, but the problem with SCP Wiki is that you have to. It's not like YouTube where you are subjected to some algorithm that will punish you for, skipping interval. But, there's a two-tier sort of pressure at the SCP Wiki, which is that people have an addiction to reception, to upvotes, to notoriety, to presence. They have an addiction to being seen. And so I think some authors, not all, are motivated to post, pretty regularly for that reason. And then the other tier of that pressure is, I guess that's it. I said it too, but I think I just meant one. It's basically just the authors themselves wanting to be seen.
Exactly. And I mean, if you move out into the world of like actual like publishing and authorship and things like that, then it becomes an issue. Then you kind of have to put food on the table and have things work.
Correct.
At least
Yeah, that's when it
generally.
becomes an issue.
It's it kind of depends on how you move forward and what you do with it. But I think that's part of the beauty of the wiki and kind of how it did
I
get
agree.
started, where you just had people be like, "Man, that sounds neat. I'm gonna write about it,"
Yeah.
and just threw it up there for other people and be like, "Wow, that's really cool." Or,
Yeah, so I think that in that way, that's another really environmental pressure that we've seen pushing onto SCP that makes it worse, is because you do have this culture of like, production, in the same way that a YouTube content creator would want to do that to keep their subscribers satiated. and to not experience a dip in their, subscriber intake or something like that. You get what I'm trying to say. That sort of rushed mentality, I think, is responsible for, a lot of mediocre work. Whereas if you were patient, if you were writing for the right reasons, you didn't have that sort of problem nagging at you. You just stayed calm, stayed quiet, stayed meditative in your own artistic self-esteem, and you just waited until that beautiful idea presented itself.
Like, wow, did you hit your head as a child? and that's sort of the way that it is. That is one thing.
Tell me, how did you? Wow. Okay, this came to my mind. Well,
You're fine.
After you joined, the wiki on its original site. Take me. Let's resume from there.
Okay. So we're on the old wiki, which was
this
a huge step up from 4chan.
Yeah.
But not by much. That's really not saying anything.
Wow. Everything in small steps. When you're going on a long journey, you don't take a long step. You take small steps. Macro evolution is just made up of micro evolutions.
But it was much better than what it was, and we had everything laid out. We had 1,000 entries.
Wow.
And I think we had, 40 entries full, give or take.
Oh, okay, I see.
And it's hilarious, because looking back on it now, it's like, how the fuck are we ever going to fill these things?
Man.
And it's like, shit, that roster only lasted half a year.
That is crazy to think about, man.
Point. What the hell are we going to do?
Yeah. I mean, you got something like RPC, which we talked about on the last config call-in. I think it was the last one. Maybe it was one before. But, it's I don't want to say it's struggling to get to 1,000 because it's fine. It doesn't need to get to 1,000 articles, RPC 1,000. But at this rate of production, it's going to take years to get there. And it's been slowing down. December was a little bit of an anomaly just because I think the holidays or something like that. But the posting is slowed. And I don't like that.
It's very funny kind of looking back at it. And that's one of the other little quirks of the whole thing is that, especially in the early days, a lot of the entries are either very, very high or very, very low. Because all the entries are just in this big, long list. And if you wanted someone to see them in all those dead links,
right,
you had to kind of be, in a good location to try and get that.
Right,
so it was...
That's evolved, Someone needs to do a study of the names that people give SCPs, but not only that, but the way that they will try to stand them out, And I'm guilty of this too. I've done this with printing EKG. I think I'm the only one in the history of the SCP, I think, to have their title of their SCP on the main list itself animated through some code. So I'm guilty of this too, but there are worse examples of that. There are such low-hanging fruits that have been harvested that they're dragging along, raccoons with them, and it's rotted and shredded up from being scraped by the ground and the claws of these raccoons. That's how low the fruit is for some of these titles that have just gotten worse and worse and worse. Clickbaity kind of stuff, just not good. So certainly that's still alive and well, particularly when you have the onset of a new series, but it's mutated into worse variants, I think.
More real estate than anything else.
Yeah, and even today, people still have competitions over the nicest numbers,
The nicest numbers.
Try to get their article ready as fast as they can when a new series comes about.
It's like there's this point of honor, and I understand it to a certain extent. It's an interesting concept, but it's a number. And that's always been my opinion. That's why, and it's one of my weaker, least favorite entries, which is really hard because everyone like makes YouTube things about this and like all kinds of stuff. My 001 entry, like it's not good. Like, it's not terrible, but it's
Dude.
not one of my adventure entries, and everyone references it. And like
Wow.
my idea was that instead of being like the ultimate Uber item, it was just like the first thing they found.
Dude, that. Oh. But see, that's why it's so good. He's being real humble here, and that's totally Dr. Gears. You wouldn't find other people who wrote 001 saying this about their 001. They wouldn't. The humility doesn't fit. But yeah, so that's what makes Dr. Gears 001 so interesting. Is because it's unique almost in SCP-001s in that it's not trying to be anything big. You know, it's not really trying to be anything elevated. It's trying to be as stripped down. I mean, if it were a car, you know, it would be a vehicle. It would be that like utility truck that doesn't have any design to it whatsoever. It's just got those like generic, like rectangular, slightly ovaled on the edges taillights that just have, you know, just machinery around them, just like platform structure of steel and guts hanging out. Like that's what his SCP-001 would be. And he's being really modest here. I mean, it's not great. I mean, technically, no, he's right. It's not good. But when you put it into the context of it being like the first attempt in universe, you know, of this organization, this foundation trying to, you know, push its way into some sort of like standardized format, that's what makes it really creative. I mean, Dr. Gears is always operating on, I think, probably a strata above. And so this is just a perfect example of it. So, I mean, you know, it's funny to hear him say that he doesn't like it and that he thinks it's bad. And I agree with him. It's not like, you know, amazing writing, but just the concept behind it is just, it's so damn concentrated, so damn clever. And so that's why I still like it a whole bunch.
And that's why the style is kind of janked up, and why.
Yeah, see, it plays it so perfectly. It plays it to a T, man.
It's very primitive.
You did a great
and
job.
Kind of, you know, hints to what the Foundation would become at a later date.
Don't sell yourself short, man. But see, he can afford to do that because other people like me will be like, nah, man, you're wrong. You're fucking wrong. You're great.
And
that's a great 001.
The Foundation has evolved sort of past that point, very significantly. But at the time, like that was a really cool idea.
It still is a cool idea, bro.
And it's you know, I put up a bunch of entries, and I should have a, you know, everyone else is doing a 001 thing. So
yeah,
like,
that's a shame.
I'm gonna do one too.
That's a shame.
And so I just kind of cobbled that thing together and threw it up there.
Okay, well, that's what Dr. Gears has cobbled together and thrown up there looks like. What does yours look like? That's what his looks like. So, pretty good.
So like,
was yours the skeleton key?
No, mine was.
Ooh. Dude. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh. Man. Man, do some research, buddy. God.
The prototype. The singularity
hell
eyeball alien thing.
Fuck me.
Yes. See, I don't think I've actually
Dude.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. It's hilarious because
get the
there's
fuck out of here.
I want to say it's like SCP Animated or something like that. It's some YouTube channel. Did a
I think it's Dr. Bob. Not that I care.
Animation of the incident of that item. It was really cool. I'm like, man, I wish the entry was better. I'm looking at it like, this is really cool. Like they're presenting this really, really well. It's like, man,
it's like the one rhetorical device that you could use where it not being stellar writing works in its advantage. That's what's so amazing about that entry. It's really good.
It's really bad.
I agree.
It's funny. It's funny that's one of the things. Like, especially if you like search my name, like Dr. Gears SCP or something like that. That is very often, like in the videos and such, that will show up as a Dr. Gears the prototype and stuff. Like,
it's great.
Right.
And but very funny.
Was that still like
just to be clear, his reasons for it not being good play into why it is good. His reasons for saying that it's not good are not good reasons to think that it's bad.
To the Wikidot site now.
Yeah, that was back before the Wikidot site. If someone catches me on this, it was either before that or right when we came over. But I think it was before. I'm pretty sure it was before. And
let's find out for him. Because, it's funny. We are the sort of people who do this stuff for fun at the Society for Containment Fiction, and specifically the Containment Fiction Wiki, where recently we just did, in fact, it's our most recent entry from earlier this month. It's on the first slot, cultural phenomenon. Okay. Let's try something else. There was a very early page on the SCP Wiki that no longer exists. And it had a few on there. It had Erbstrom's proposal, which was called Site 19. It had Jonathan Ball's proposal, which was a sheaf of papers. There's a new article up on the magazine about that. Check that out. It's a review. And then there's actually two not real, but sort of like placeholder proposal links, and that's Fishmonger's, which was called The Game, and Dr. Clef's, which was just supposed to be funny, and is titled, quote-unquote, something big enough to be worthy of being the first SCP. Let's see. We do have a reference for this. Oh, well. Okay, so I don't really want to, waste a bunch of time here. Pause too long to try to figure this out for Dr. Gears. But I can't figure it out. Sorry. We didn't do a good enough job.
On the old site, I remember I wrote a bunch of stuff. Some of them being 682, and that's where
it looks like. So I'm on the edit this capture in the Wayback Machine. And nope, here it is. So here's your answer, Dr. Gears. On this edit this Wayback Machine capture, I have a post from Dr. Gears on the 6th of June 2008 at 9:07 in the morning, apparently, and it's by user Cog, who I'm fairly sure is Dr. Gears. Actually, I'm positive it is, because this is the comment. Damn it, and I'm quoting, "Damn it, I said over and over that I would not try to make a 001, but here I am. It's SCP-001, parentheses, prototype, and it's fail. I tried to give it a feel like this is just the very beginning of the Foundation, and an item that was not world-ending, but not containable by normal means. I tried to make the report seem like the prototype of the current standard form. Please tell me what you think." So, this is in the discussion for the SCP-001 slot. This is a really, really interesting capture. You have Taisijin's proposal. You have Erbstrom's proposal. You have people suggesting that you have Catalyst's proposal. You have other people suggesting that pre-existing SCPs should be upgraded into the 001 slot, like SCP-579 somebody, SCP-348. There's also a proposal here called Supacorn's proposal, which is not something that I'm very familiar with, actually. The comment says, taken from this special containment procedure rich text file with minimal edits, and it's by an individual named Senior Pawnage. So if I go to the user cog on the edit this, you can see it's Dr. Gears. It's his classic image with the eyeballs on the face redacted. He is a Euclid class object specialist, Dr. Gears, aka COG. Security class is expunged. Duties, field evaluation, field recovery, SCP development, and review object research. And he's got about, I don't know, I'll call it 15 SCPs here. 882-218-053-409, 718-162-238-455-015, 216-406-682, and 039. None of those being the skeleton key. Good God. Actually, Supercorn's 001 proposal doesn't lead anywhere, so not sure. This is really, really interesting. I'm going to send Dr. Gears a message telling him that he did post his prototype to edit this. It was before the Wikidot, actually. And I'm going to send him this page because it's really interesting. Okay, so that seems like a nice place to stop since I've kind of taken up a lot of the time just off of listening for now. We'll do another. This is just a really interesting page. My gosh. Just to go on because I have a few more minutes here. Agreed. I suggest for it to be cleared until something better comes along. No, this isn't worthy of the title of SCP-001. 001 must be God. It's only obvious, and that's actually what mine is about, the RPC-001. What about Site-19? Perhaps Site-19 is itself an SCP. These are some of the earliest ideas. SCP numberless, it's perfect, it's creepy, and all the people new will read it. It'll make our hits go up tenfold. There's a lot of proposals that Site-19 should be 001. The 52nd state of America, Arcadia. Site-19 itself being possibly a part of the Garden of Eden. Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm going to send Dr. Gears this link just because it's very interesting. SCP-001 is you. That's pretty good. Wow. See, this is why we do this. Do I have a few minutes to plug ourselves? Yeah. This is why we do Containment Fiction Wiki, is because, I mean, it's just so interesting for us. I mean, I people might think that's weird, but I think it's weird if you don't think this is interesting. You know, if you're part of this space and you don't. I think I understand that plenty of people don't, and that's fine. But to me and to the other people who were involved in this, Pixelated Harmony, obviously, Cool Dude is an excellent archivist in this project. This stuff is incredibly interesting to us. As I whistle. Oh, hey, look at this. One of Us. This is really interesting. This is back on Edit This. For example, let me tell you why this is so cool. Right here. This is on Edit This, and one of the comments on the SCP-001 page, this is 2008. What if SCP-001 was one of us, the writers, who come up with the ideas for SCP objects and write about it, thus causing them to exist within the SCP world? That's Swann's proposal right there. And that might be Andrew Swann right there. I don't know. It's just interesting that all this predates what people understand them to usually start at. So that's why this is very interesting. And once again, very, very happy to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to it with me. I hope this is educational for you. And I hope it's interesting as well. Huge fan of Dr. Gears. Huge fan of his 001 proposal. Don't do that again. That's a no-no. Don't sell yourself short like that. Catch you next time. This is Lack of Lepers. Bye.